Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really interesting idea, a new kind of global competition that's playing out, well, everywhere, on battlefields you can't even see. And we're going to break it down using the source documents and analyses themselves. So let's just chew on that for a second. What if the most important conflicts are now fought without a single shot ever being fired? It really gets to the heart of this big idea that, the very nature of global power has shifted. It's not just about tanks and jets anymore. We've moved into a much broader, way more complex arena. So to really get our heads around this, we need to rewind the clock a bit. We're going back to 1999, to a very specific doctrine that basically tore up the old rulebook on modern power. It completely changed how people think about strategy. Okay, so here's the key concept, and it comes from an analysis by the Spanish Institute for Strategic Studies. The term is unrestricted warfare, and the logic behind it? It's actually pretty straightforward, even kind of brilliant in a way. If you know you can't win a head-to-head military fight against a stronger opponent, you just don't fight that fight. Instead, you change the rules of the game completely. You move the battlefield away from soldiers and into areas like economics, technology, and information. And this quote from the original authors just nails it. The best war is the one won without firing a single shot. The battlefield of the 21st century is everywhere, and anyone can be a soldier. I mean, think about that. It's all about weakening your opponent from the inside out, right? Using every single tool you have, not just the military ones. The conflict is happening all the time, everywhere, but it's almost totally invisible. And make no mistake, this isn't just some abstract academic theory. Nope. It's a concrete, long-term national project. The goal, as laid out here, is to achieve global market dominance by a very specific date, 2049. We're talking about a multi-decade plan where the main weapons aren't missiles, they're economic and technological strategies.
Okay, so that's the theory. But what does this unrestricted competition actually look like in the real world? Let's dive into our first case study. And it starts with something so fundamental we barely think about it. Water, and how it can be turned into a powerful weapon.
It all starts with geography, really. China controls the Tibetan Plateau. Why does that matter? Well, that plateau is the source for huge rivers that provide fresh water for, get this, 2 billion people across Asia. That is an unbelievable amount of leverage, just by controlling the source. And this quote, which comes to us from an analysis in UCLA's Journal on World Affairs, really shows you the strategic thinking behind this. It basically says, not one drop of China's water should be shared without China using it first, or without making those downstream pay for it. So right there, you see it. Water isn't a shared resource, it's a national asset, something to be controlled and used for advantage. And this isn't hypothetical. In 2019, the real-world impact of this control became devastatingly clear. While China's dams upstream were holding back record amounts of water, the nations downriver on the Mekong were hit with a crippling drought, and the results were catastrophic. We're talking an 80% drop in fishing catches for communities in Cambodia. Some cities in Vietnam's Mekong Delta lost access to fresh water entirely. It's a powerful and frankly scary example of how controlling water can be used as a weapon. Okay, so this strategy of controlling fundamental resources isn't just about water. It goes way beyond that. Let's shift to our next battlefield, the global scramble for the raw materials that power pretty much our entire modern world. Think about the green energy transition, right? Electric cars, big batteries. At the heart of all that is lithium. And it turns out one country, Bolivia, is sitting on the world's largest known reserves. I mean, a staggering 22% of the global total. That's a huge piece of the pie. Let's just let that number sink in. 21 million metric tons. The sheer scale of that resource has turned this landlocked country in South America into a major hotspot for geopolitical competition. And you better believe everybody wants in. But it's not a free-for-all. Getting access to that lithium comes with a very firm condition. Bolivia requires the state to keep a 51% majority stake in any foreign partnership. They're making sure their national interest comes first. So who's willing to play by those rules? Well, primarily Chinese and Russian firms. They've poured in billions of dollars to lock down these partnerships. And by doing that, they've positioned themselves right at the source of a technology that is going to define the future. It's a classic play in this new great game. And look, this isn't just about digging stuff out of the ground. For China, the strategy is much bigger. It's about controlling the entire supply chain, all the way from the lithium mines in Bolivia straight to their own massive battery factories. It's really a textbook example of economic warfare, right? You control the raw material, you control the manufacturing, and ultimately you control the entire industry.
All right, let's move to our final case study. And this is maybe the most high-tech, high-stakes battlefield there is right now, the global fight over semiconductors, or chips.
So, a few years ago, the US kicked off what everyone now calls the chip war. The basic idea was to use America's lead in chip design and the super advanced equipment needed to make them to cut off China's access to the most powerful chips. The goal was pretty clear: slow down their technological rise. But what this whole conflict really did was shine a huge spotlight on a fundamental difference in how the two countries think about technology. You see, in the US, a lot of AI development is driven by stock prices and market hype. It's a speculative asset. In China, it's treated like critical national infrastructure, like roads or power grids. It's systematically woven into national planning, into manufacturing, into everything. So, when faced with these export controls, what did China do? Did they fold? Not at all. They doubled down. They poured massive resources into a state-driven mission to become self-reliant. And they came up with a really clever workaround. Since they couldn't get the most powerful individual chips, they just started linking tons of their less advanced chips together into these huge interconnected systems. One analysis calls them massive chip clusters. And here's the real kicker, the big, unexpected twist. The whole strategy seems to have backfired. Instead of halting China's progress, the US export controls actually became the main driver for its technological independence. It basically forced them to accelerate and build the very things the US was trying to block them from getting. An incredible case of unintended consequences. Okay, so let's pull back for a second. We've talked about controlling rivers, securing lithium supplies, and fighting a war over microchips. They seem like totally separate stories, right? But what if they're not? What if they're all just different fronts in the same new kind of war? And that's really the point. This is what unrestricted warfare looks like in practice. Controlling water, locking down critical resources, dominating a key technology. These aren't isolated incidents. They are interconnected battlefields in a global competition where the primary weapons are economic and technological. Which leads us to one last really big question. In a world of invisible battlefields, where the weapons aren't bombs but supply chains and lines of code, how do we even know who's winning? How do you even define victory? The answer to that is probably going to define the rest of the 21st century.